And we are live.
Sweet.
Hello, everybody. If you're watching this on the replay, there will be some jump links, to use the fancy term, some timestamps in the description below this video where you can, skip ahead to the part past where we're actually eating waffles and maybe talking about something that you're, interested in.
Interested in?
Yeah. There you go. We'll kick it off in a few minutes. Nick, first of all, thanks for joining me, buddy. This is
Yeah,
super fun.
man. Always happy to. Always happy to.
Let's I'm just gonna wait until we have some people live to actually show off
Jim,
what I'm eating here.
Jim Wang said TikTok. So it sounds like he's here.
But oh, really? I gotta open up my chat. Oh, there he is. What's up, Packaging the Brand? He was hanging out with me on Twitter.
On
Live.
time is late, says Jim. Okay.
Hey, man. You know what? my college percussion professor used to always say that. It drove me nuts. He's like, on time is late.
My dad says that. He like lives and dies by that.
Oh, God. Which is funny because I was always the early person anyway, so it didn't really matter. But it still drove me nuts. Anyways. All right. Welcome to the straight. I'm going to just go, Nick, let's show off here. So I am, this is homemade waffles with strawberries. I cut up some strawberries. I threw them in the freezer for about an hour, like right when I woke up. And then I threw them in the waffle mix. So that is what I'm digging out here.
That looks good. I'm jealous, honestly, of the fruit. I don't have any fruit this morning. I'll move my camera. So I did make a legitimate Waffle House run. See my Waffle House to-go bag here.
Yep.
I have my legitimate Waffle House waffle along with my tray of sausage and assortment of syrups and butter.
I like that you had it neatly laid out too. It's like butter.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I went hardcore.
So I'm going to actually see if anybody gets annoyed with me just like eating. I'll try not to like eat it right into the Heil PR40 microphone here.
That's probably ideal.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do my best to mute myself as we go. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll probably take it slow with the waffles. Like ask question, mute mic, eat waffles.
I like that. I think that makes good sense to me.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? It's so much harder to like mute yourself on Ecamm Live for the live stream than it is like a Zoom. Zoom, you just like hit space bar or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I got to pull up my like my sound levels here. Okay, there we go. I got it. Oh, I love it. So if you're just joining us in chat, only a few people on so far. It's a different time than I usually do this. I thought that might actually throw some people off. Hit me up with an emoji in chat. The emoji that best describes how you're feeling about this Friday. You're welcome to use the emoji keyboard on your instrument, your computer. I like to call it my instrument because I work full time on a computer. It's my instrument. Give me an emoji in chat if you are here and hear me. Mysterical Me, what's up? Whoa. Hang on. Hold up.
Never been to a Waffle House.
Yeah, Mysterical Me says, I've never been to a Waffle House. Nick and I have told a lot of people this, but we are actually the two people you want to go to Waffle House with.
That's right.
For the first time.
That's right.
Yes, that's true. Nick, I don't think you were Were you with us in Podcast Movement last year?
No, I've never been to Podcast Movement.
Okay. There was a few people, Tom Drake and a few other FinCon people, Dustin, that had never been to Waffle House either. And so we went late one night and it was incredible. I mean, it was like, go ahead.
It's definitely a Southern thing, right? Like, do they even have them much outside of the Southeast?
They don't have any in where I'm at in Michigan right now. You have to drive like 4 or 5 hours south. Like Indiana, I've seen a few.
Okay. Yeah. I grew up with 3 Waffle Houses in my town, and I'm from like a small town. Like that's not like, so yeah, it's just a staple,
It is. Oh,
we got some emojis in here.
We do. Sarah has a blog called Waffles on Wednesday, and she was giving me crap in the Facebook group that we're doing on a Friday instead of Wednesday. What's up, Wendy J? I can't actually see that your emoji didn't pull through for me for whatever reason, but that's okay. What's up, Tadisha? Wait, what is that? That's
the Wendy J emoji is a dapping. That's hilarious. I don't even know where she got that.
Really?
Like
All I see is elbow cough. Like that's what it says for me.
Okay. Maybe it's an elbow cough. It looks like a dap to me.
Why is it called elbow cough? What is that? Oh, it's because okay, I got it. Like
It's
this,
because they're like coughing into their elbow. Yeah.
but it's actually a dab. Okay, I got it. All right.
Yeah.
Um, well, Nick, you want to like alternate eating waffles and asking questions and answering questions? Like, can I?
Yes, I like it.
All right.
Do you want to ask me first, or do you want me to ask you a question?
Oh, I was going to ask you like questions. Um,
All right. Fire
but
away.
you're eating your waffle too, so I
I'm
wanted
okay. I'm just cutting it right now.
to. Okay. All right. Oh, you haven't even taken your first bite yet. I'll tell you what. In between answers, I'll tell funny Waffle House stories that you and I have both
I
been a
like
part of.
it.
All right, so let me kick off with some actual content. Nick, Mapped Out Money, obviously mostly started as the YouTube channel a couple of years ago. You started a podcast recently
Yep.
with your wife Hannah, which is really great. You guys just like get on there and tell stories. It's fun. I like that. That's like the best podcast content, and it's also useful. So first up, I want to talk about podcasting just for a few minutes. By the way, Nick's already quote unquote like successful YouTuber. Like you've been doing this for a while. Like you've experienced some growth. You're on the partner program. Like you're monetized there. You also have like some digital products and stuff like that too. Like you didn't need to
Mhm.
like just jump in the podcast, but you did. And so my first question is why? Like why? What made you guys want to do a podcast together like a couple months ago?
Yeah. 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 There's a few things come to mind. One would be just simple like audience expansion. It's sort of my belief based on what I've seen that most people tend to consume content primarily in one form and then sometimes in other forms. So people either watch YouTube and then like sometimes listen to podcast or like watch, like listen to podcast and sometimes watch YouTube, or like people who are like I read blogs, like that's what I do, and sometimes I watch YouTube or listen to podcasts. Like it's kind of my belief that most people have like one form that's their primary. And so part of our reasoning was, can we expand just our audience by having a different way that we produce content? Because right now YouTube is pretty much all we do. So it was more of a long term, like we want to be doing Mapped Out Money for a long time. We want to grow Mapped Out Money. And so podcasting was another way that we could sort of expand our overall audience. I think, like you said, our big business model is mostly like content marketing, putting out bigger pieces of content. And we haven't done a lot of monetization through ads and affiliates, although we want to do that more this year. But mostly just knowing if we put out good content, a small percentage of people who listen or watch will ultimately buy our coaching programs and our classes. And that's kind of the main way. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was I think a lot about Tim Ferriss has this line where he says, how do you win even if you lose?
Mm,
And so for him, when he applied this to podcasting, if it didn't hit any of the metrics he wanted around growth or like business revenue generation or anything like that, he would still be able to count it as a win because of the relationships he would build through his interview show. And even though we're not doing an interview show,
I was gonna ask.
we felt like number one, it would be a win for our relationship because with me and my wife doing it together, it was a way for us to sit down and have like we have to work together, we have to script together, we have to come up with ideas together, we have to actually produce the show together, and it would be a win for our relationship from it forces us to talk about interesting things and have like good conversations.
I like that.
So that was a win. And then the other win was I want to get better at talking off the cuff. Like it's long term a dream of mine to have like a call-in show or like a Q&A type thing or do like live Q&A from stage. And I don't think I'm anywhere close to the level of um I guess to the goodness level of see there you go of being able to speak off the top of my head that I would like to be.
I got you.
And I felt like podcasting would be a way to grow that skill
Are
set.
you scripting this entire YouTube live right now? Did you just read that off your teleprompter?
No, I did put down some bullet points because I thought about that question beforehand.
So that actually leads to something completely unrelated. I want to ask you about how you guys do the process and what you found. What have you learned about that process? You're working towards being able to speak a little bit better off the cuff.
Yep.
You want to do
Yep.
more public speaking and stuff like that. So, what is the process that you guys do for any given episode? And then the follow up question is already like, has that helped so far? It's only been a couple of months. You guys are like 7 episodes
Yeah,
in?
7 episodes. Yep.
Seven
Yeah.
episodes in. What have you seen happen so far?
So on the let me answer the business side first. On the business side, we are like we just hit like 30 days on the first episode, I guess, or something like that. And that's what typically
Hmm.
people look at, right, for downloads, right? So we did like 700 downloads on the first episode in 30 days, which I feel really pumped about. And from a business standpoint, I don't know that I can point to any specific thing other than we've gotten, a handful of emails from people in our audience that have said like they're really enjoying it. They're finding it helpful. And then we had 2 people sign up for our most recent class launch as paying customers that specifically mentioned they were really enjoying the podcast.
Oh,
So I
good.
felt like okay, cool. Like, that's helping overall branding wise.
Yeah.
As far as our process for the way we're doing it right now, um, as we go about our life and our day, one of us will randomly come up with a thought will cross our mind of like, ooh, that would be a good topic for the podcast. And we use Notion as our sort of project management tool / also our notes area. And so one of us will just throw it into our Notion database for podcasting as like an idea.
I love Notion. That's so good.
Yeah, we're huge fans. And so like it just gets put in as an idea. And then at least once a week we'll talk through like upcoming episode ideas and like give them a date and say like we want to do this topic,
Mm.
as episode number 9 or 10 or whatever. And then from there, Hannah typically takes the first stab at doing a rough outline. And it's not scripted word for word. It's like here's the key takeaways we want to make sure we hit. Here's the main points we want to hit. Here's a couple of stories we want to tell. And she'll do a rough outline. Then I'll come in, and my strength is typically doing a more cohesive, like really tying this all together and trying to make it make sure the takeaways are built in and it makes sense all the way through. So I'll like go through it once over. Sometimes maybe reorganize her bullet points or rearrange them, but just kind of give it a little bit more structure.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much the scripting process. And then we sit down to record. We'll do a pre-production meeting where we'll basically just kind of talk through the outline for about 15 minutes so that we both kind of have the overall thing that we're going for in our heads. And then we'll hit record and go.
I like it.
Have we gotten better at speaking off the top of our heads and like better? I mean, it's not totally extemporaneous because there's an outline, that we're kind of going through, but I definitely think we've gotten better. I'm way happier with the episode that came out this week compared to the first episode.
Hmm.
So I feel like as long as I can keep saying that, I'll be
Okay. Why don't I let you eat some waffles for a minute or two? And I want to just go back and talk about one point you said from the Tim Ferriss podcast about even if you lose, you win. I mean, I just paraphrased that. I can't remember what it was. But setting projects up so you benefit in some way, even if it's like, not a success by any standard, like modern standard. Didn't make a whole lot of money, didn't work out, you have to quit it later, making sure that you learn something, come out ahead, yada yada. So I've told this to a bunch of people. Start a podcast. First of all, this is like the worst sales pitch ever for my upcoming podcasting course. Don't start a podcast strictly for acquisition. Like I'm trying to gain new eyeballs and I don't want to say earballs. That sounds weird, but listeners and stuff like that. Like it's not an acquisition platform. That's not what it's for. However, side note, but the way you grow a podcast is also the way you grow your brand in general, which is a huge plus. Like anything you can do to grow your podcast, getting on other people's shows, Google SEO, writing a book, self-publishing on Amazon, pointing it back to your podcast, like a ton of other podcast marketing stuff is all brand marketing stuff for the most part, which is, in my opinion, like a huge win. Anyways, going back to my original point, I tell people all the time, like, if for no other reason, the relationships you build with podcasting are ludicrous, especially if you do interviews. Now, you mentioned other stuff because you guys don't do interviews. Our mutual friend Josh Elledge, he's actually gone public telling people this too. He has no shame whatsoever. He interviews for his podcast like potential clients. Like that's his strategy for getting new clients for his business, Up by Influence. Super smart guy. He has like he like goes and does some prospecting and finds people that would be good clients, paying clients for him, and he invites them on the podcast, and that's his foot in the door. And he has like, some listeners, so they get nice exposure there. It's kind of a win-win off the bat. And then he uses that to like, follow up with them and basically just pitch them, work with them in order to get paying clients. I don't do that, but I have also just seen ginormous rewards come from the podcast guests. Like of half of the freelance clients or more that I've had over the past 3 years, direct result of the podcast. Like I would not have known these people that hired me if I had not literally spoken to them for the podcast. And yeah, just connections, getting in front of people, even if it's not like, you're going to have Dave Ramsey on the show and now you and Dave are best friends and he's going to like promote you to his audience. No, of course not. But in general, there's a lot of wins that come other than downloads, which is also awesome because then you get to help people and change people's lives. But there's a lot of other wins there. So there you go. Sausage patties over links all day. Chief Financial Mom. So Pete, by the way, we met at FinCon right there. There's more relationships for you. So Pete, I think what you're saying is you should have paying options in your business before you even start your podcast. Correct. The podcast just helps you sell what you already have going. Not necessarily. I do think that it is the trust and authority like that comes from podcasting. It's a lot greater than just blogging, obviously. And so whether you have a product already or you don't have any product whatsoever, but you're building the audience first, I swear to God, Nick, I'm going to have t-shirts made that says audience first. Audience first. Something I sucked at for a long time. So no, I don't think you need to have a like paying thing already necessarily, but I do think it can help for building the audience to sell a product one day, if that makes any sense.
I agree with that. And I think it's important to recognize, like, I had been on YouTube for 2 years and working on paid products before starting a podcast. And we've been talking about doing a podcast for a long time. And it's not that you need to wait that long to do it, but I tend to be a fan of going kind of all in on one platform for a while until you've built a base and like have a business going off the back of that, and then expand to other platforms. It's very easy to spread yourself really thin with like YouTube, Pinterest, blogging, podcasting, and not have any products to like actually support the business and keep that going.
Yeah. And it's nearly impossible to keep all of that going with like one person without hiring help, which you need an income stream to do. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. Last thing, and then I'll move on to another question here. Just resonating with what Sarah said. I said resonating. That was like Freud. No, never mind. Resonate with starting a podcast to become a better speaker. Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I want to take it one step further. Nick, you guys are editing your own show. Is that right?
Yep, right now.
Okay. I suggest to everybody, I don't care if you're a billionaire and you could hire the best NPR podcast engineers, producers, editors, whatever. I don't care. Everyone should edit their show for the first like 6 months at least. Like it will teach you to be a better speaker. Not just running the podcast, but editing, listening to yourself, hearing where you click your mouth, hearing where you have long pauses, just like that, or do filler words. Like it will teach you to be a much better communicator. I think everybody should edit their own podcast as well.
I'm going to do something that we found in editing our show just in the first few episodes is every time like Pete, and I'm going to probably do this like 10 times while we have this video.
It's okay.
Every time that I'm on a co-host situation like this and you say something that I agree with, I go, totally. That's like the first word to respond. And like just editing the first few episodes and noticing Hannah says, what does she say? She says, ultimately, that's her word. Ultimately, da 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 da. And I always say, totally. It's ridiculous. And so, yeah, I totally agree. You should edit your own show.
Totally. Mine was mouth clicks. And everybody does a little bit of mouth clicking. Like, I don't care who you are. You're a human. You do that. But for me, the first like 6 months, lip smacking, it was too much. It was way more even than your average podcaster. And I actually got Mrs. Groovy. I haven't seen them in a while. I can't remember the name of their blog. They were Groovy, like Mr. and Mrs. Groovy. I can't remember. I haven't seen them around in a couple of years. Anyways, she sent me this long email. She's like, you need to stop with the lip smacking and the mouth clicking. And when she said that, it's like the next episode that I was editing, I was like, oh crap, like she's right. It's terrible. It's literally like every 7.5 seconds. It was bad. So I got a lot better at that. I still do it a little bit, but in general, yeah, way better speaker. So let me ask you this, Nick. YouTube, podcasting. I want to talk about the content creation process. Which
Mhm.
one? There's a lot of questions in here. I'm just gonna kind of leave this broad and let you tell me. But I'm thinking like, have you found this difficult podcasting since you were already editing YouTube videos? And I know Hannah was editing some YouTube videos as well. Other like research, doing the outlines that you mentioned and the bullets and tying the shows together. Like, do you feel like you had an advantage coming from YouTube? How has the overall process been for actually creating the show? Been similar or different, easier or harder than like YouTube land? Something you were used to.
Yeah. I would say video is slightly harder editing wise because you're doing video and audio, and so you've got to learn sort of two skill sets. Hannah and I, our process at this point in our business has been for us to both learn almost everything. uh, to your point, so that we can improve upon it. So I learned how to edit videos first, and then when Hannah left her job to start working with me full time, that was something I handed off. So then she started editing all the videos, which helped her learn video and audio. And then when we decided to do the podcast, I took a stab at doing the podcast first, again, because we both wanted to edit, um, to learn about our own little bitty ticks. But we knew eventually I would hand that off to her as well, and she would produce the podcast also.
Hmm.
As far as the process, I would say it has been. I've had a harder time just finding answers because it's almost like Google is so it's so vast sometimes, and YouTube is so vast sometimes with like editing side, anyways. Like I even voxed you about this, Pete. Like the whole leveling of an episode thing just
Oh yeah.
it drove me up the wall trying to figure that out and trying to figure out how to do that and make sure that I was coming in at the right loudness and all that stuff. And I still don't think it's perfect, but I think we're close enough.
That's interesting.
Uh,
Actually, can I make a
so
comment on that really quick?
yeah.
This is interesting. And half of the reason not half of the reason. No, I'm creating Podcourse because I think it needs to be out there because I want to make money from it. I'll just be completely honest. But when you talk about trying to find answers to podcasting, I've actually found this to be the case with YouTubing as well. But with blogging, it's the complete opposite. When you go Google how to start a blog, there are billions of results. And quite frankly, 90% of those are like on some standard deviation. Like they're pretty similar. Those posts on like how to start a blog. You find the topic, search for a domain name, you install, set up WordPress, customize your theme. Like it's pretty standard. A large majority of those posts are the same. When it comes to starting a podcast, there are totally free resources out there. They're all different. It's kind of weird, in fact. There are some broad things you need to do, like setting up a podcast host. And even then, there's not like a WordPress. There's like a bunch of different companies and tools you could use. And yeah, get distributed to like Apple Podcasts and a few other ones. But other than that, it's like, it's all over the place. Like everybody says different stuff. All of it's probably good and valid and stuff. But it's just like, there's no standard deviation if you're like
exactly.
Googling things and look at that. So it can be tough to figure out. Okay, well, leveling. I just heard like 15 products and no one can agree, and everybody's telling me different stuff to try, and all of these are in the same. Like, what do I do? It could be tough, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Just wanted to.
it feels like the industry hasn't created almost a set of established best practices when it comes to the production side, anyways. Which felt difficult.
Yeah.
Now, from a scripting side, our process, because we've got, I don't know, 100 something videos at this point, or I don't know, something like that, in our backlog of things that we've created on YouTube, that from a scripting side, it felt not as difficult because I have this bank of all these ideas that I know will work anyways. So what we've done is we've typically started with a video, or we started with a story. Like with in one of our episodes, we share like our honeymoon story and sort of everything that went wrong with that
The
and how
wedding
that
storm.
relates to finance. Yeah. And that's a story we've told a lot, like to our friends and family, and I've told before on interviews. And so we would start with a story and then just sort of weave an episode around it. So I felt like, as far as scripting, it's been a little bit more difficult because they're longer by nature than YouTube videos. Like I try to keep YouTube videos around 5 to 15 minutes, whereas our podcasts are running about a half hour.
True.
So from that standpoint, it's a little longer, but with two co-hosts and back and forth, and I say something and then Hannah thinks of something, it hasn't felt too bad. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but
Yeah,
um,
I think it does.
I found having a base certainly of creating content on YouTube has definitely helped us with content creation, I think, for the podcast.
So speaking of tools, why don't you lay out your podcasting tool stack? What have you been using?
Yeah. So we use the Audio Technica ATR 2100. We use two of those, and we have the Zoom H6. Like I went ahead and like paid money for the bigger one with the four inputs and the adapters and stuff, because my thinking is with our travels and eventually with COVID not hopefully being a thing and we can actually get together in person and do stuff, that it's not that we're never going to have people on the show. I think we'll definitely have people on the show, but I would love to do stuff in person, and so I wanted to have the H6 to where we could do that when ready. And then right now we do everything editing wise in GarageBand.
Nice.
I got a couple of plugins that would help me with the leveling, so that I wanted to export from GarageBand and be done. And we use the ID3 editor to update the ID3 tags. And then we upload to Libsyn and rock and roll.
I'm so lame. I've never done tags at all.
Really?
Yeah, no chapter marks, no ID3 tags, no
I don't know if
metadata.
it helps at all.
I have no idea either. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea.
I took a podcast course on Udemy for like $15 or something, and it said that you should do that, and so I was like, okay, I'll do that, and so that's why we do it. I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, that's interesting. One more comment on the tools side of things and the whole, like, there's not one standard on how to start a podcast. Part of the reason that is like you mentioned earlier with podcast hosting companies and stuff like that. Like it's still the Wild West. Somebody said this. I think it was James Cridlin at Podcast Movement last year. That's his exact words that I've been stealing it ever since. Like we're still in the Wild West. There are still companies like Descript who launched publicly like less than about a year ago, and have completely changed the face of like podcast editing. But no one knows about it yet because it's still like so new. Yeah. By the way, it's where you can literally edit the transcript and it edits the audio. Like you can edit an audio episode like you edit a blog post. Like it's insane. And they're adding more features like every single month. And then tools like Authonic's been out a long time, but they keep making it better. Fix My Levels, and Buzzsprout just announced Magic Mastering, which is kind of like Auphonic, like automatic leveling. You just upload and it goes. They say it's like filters for Instagram, like for your photos or whatnot. There's just like, it's the Wild West. Like companies are doing all sorts of stuff, new features like every single month, every single year, it seems like. So it's like, it's kind of hard to keep up. There's a lot you could do.
It is. I think it's interesting because, Libsyn has obviously been around forever. And I remember listening, I feel like such a hipster when I say this, but I remember listening to podcasts back in 2004, 2005, and kind of knowing about them. But it feels like mainstream podcasting has really only been a thing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so therefore now like big money is pouring in. And so now you're seeing a lot more startups and tools and companies really jump in and take advantage of that opportunity.
Yep, totally, 100%. Packaging the brand, is posting podcasts monthly too infrequent based on what you have seen? Nick, why don't you take that one first, and then I'm gonna.
It depends on how good you are, and I don't mean that as a slight to you. I don't know you at all, but it really does. My number one favorite podcast on the planet is Hardcore History.
Check.
And that podcast releases 3 episodes last year. He's been in the process of writing a book, and so the last year and a half he didn't produce very much. But you better believe the second he dropped the podcast, I was all over it. And so if you're Dan Carlin, then yeah, just release it whenever you want to. um, if and so I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I guess it really, I think it can work. I think it can work. Um, me and Hannah wanted to go weekly, partly um, because we felt like we wanted to be in touch with our audience that often, and also partly because it would speed up our skill set. Like the more you produce, and this is true for YouTube as well, the more content you produce and the more often you produce, the better you will get quicker.
Yeah.
Right? If you produce one show a week, that's 52 shows a year. If you produce one show a month, that's 12 shows a year. So at the end of the year, if you're getting a little bit better at each show, you're going to be 5 times better if you went weekly versus monthly.
My answer to this question is it depends on the show. For example, if you were to come out with a comedy podcast that was 5 minutes long and you just told like the funniest jokes on the planet for 5 minutes once a month, I don't actually think that would be very worthwhile. I don't know if it would work. Maybe it would be if you are Dane Cook and you already have a built-in audience, but if you don't, like I don't see that working. However, you can also think about stuff like Serial from like Serial. That podcast changed podcasting forever for the better, in my opinion. Serial, it was like 5 years ago now or something. That podcast still gets millions of downloads. They haven't updated it in forever. Like it's a season. It's like The Office. The Office hasn't ran new episodes since like what 2011, 2012 or something. My wife and I watched The Office last night. It depends on the show. And Dan Carlin, this Hardcore History, same thing. Like it's a very deep, slow moving, amazing podcast that talks about like history. I think it works. They're also like 4 hours long, 5 hours long, 6 hours long episodes. And yeah, it just depends on the show. Depends on the show.
And like to that point, I also have a podcast now that was an Alexa skill only for a year and a half that I do every day. And so that's called the Mapped Out Money Minute. And it's 7 days a week, brand new content. And it's 1 to 3 minutes long most days.
Yeah.
You've
had that for a long time too.
And yeah, I've done that for a while. And my strategy there is I want my voice talking about finance to be in the ears of my audience every day. I want to be built into their routine. Right? It's a branding sort of strategy in that way.
I like that. So can we take a 2-minute break? I want to give away some swag. Noah Kagan said I should do this on my live stream, so I'm going to try it. There's only like 10 people watching this. If anybody will go share this live stream on social media, share it on Facebook right now or Twitter. And then like just shoot me an email afterward, pete@doyouevenblog.com. I'll like send a t-shirt and I got stickers and some other stuff. I should have got my swag back out. No, I'll tell you what, I'll do one even better. I'll send you anything from the Do You Even Blog swag shop on Gumroad. There's some t-shirts on there. There's some bags, like literally book bags on there. Just go share it. Share this live stream. You can click the share button if you're watching on YouTube, which you probably are, I assume. Right below this, share it on social media. Shoot me an email afterward, and I'll give away a swag shop item. Anything you want. Okay. What's up, Kellen? Hey, man. And welcome, Catherine. I called you Cassidy. I don't know why I tapped out your last name. That was kind of weird. What's up, Cassidy? Like people calling you by your last name. What's up, True? Sorry about that. Hashtag awkward. Anyway, so let's talk about... I really want to talk about YouTube, if I'm being completely honest. But
yeah, let's talk about YouTube.
We can dial back in. Man, what's the state of YouTube in like mid-2020? That's super broad.
More people are watching than ever.
Okay.
Ad rates are down. But depending on your channel, you're probably doing okay if you're relying on ad money because views are trending up just because people are stuck at home and they can't watch sports because sports aren't happening. That's my hot take for YouTube. So, there is more, what's the word? There's more eyeballs now. And I read this, I need to Google it so I can verify this because I haven't read it in a while. But I read recently that we were on track to surpass all of cable TV in the next like year or two. And I'm wondering if COVID has accelerated that because people can't watch sports. And so people are turning more and more to YouTube.
Yeah. I can only imagine, especially with this is a little off topic, but some good news with John Krasinski.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
dude! Like
It's so good.
people like that. What is it? Seth Godin talks about this a lot in his books and his podcasts. The gatekeepers, right? If you wanted to start a news channel that would reach millions of, let's say you already have millions of followers from like a blog or a podcast or anything. Let's say you have that already, and you wanted to start a cable news channel. The sheer amount of like lawyers that would have to be involved or like work, gatekeepers, how long that would take, I have no idea. But I can't imagine it's easy. I can't imagine it's easy. And for the fact that like John Krasinski can be like, okay, well, cool. I am just going to start a YouTube live once every couple of weeks, and like he already had a following, so it's a massive success. But it's also just good. It's not super highly edited. He uses a webcam, kind of like what we're like. It's the gatekeepers on podcasting and YouTube, in my opinion. It's just like, oh man, it's
Well, and
so
I think this COVID stuff has made it to where people are even more accepting of less edited, less production value. Like they people have gotten used to seeing professional news anchors from their living room
yeah,
and seeing John Krasinski from his, I don't even know, somewhere in his house, right? Like, um, so I don't know. Like I'm super big on YouTube. I think it is one of the best ways to build know, like, and trust factors with your audience very quickly, because there's nothing like video and audio. It's just a very intimate form of content versus like reading, and there's more eyeballs than ever on it, and like you don't have to, people are so, if you have a solid business strategy around it, you don't have to have a huge following to make legitimate money that like pays your bills.
hmm.
And I think that's what's so fascinating about it is it's very much so Kevin Kelly's 1000 True Fans, right? Like you don't need a million subscribers and millions of views every single month to make a full-time living on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about it.
So there's also this thing, and people have this with podcasting too, but even more so with YouTube, I'd argue, of like, okay, there's a lot of tech, and I'm not sure I like myself on camera, and I've never edited before, and all this other stuff, which is totally valid. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot to learn there. However, there are people, I'm going to just toss her name out here. Oh, I want to say like Catherine Cassidy, but Catherine Cassidy's in our chat. What's her name? Catherine Manning. There we go. The content bug.
Yeah,
So
she's awesome.
she is awesome, and her videos now are better, like a little bit more polished, a little bit more production. They're a little bit more edited now. However, if you go back and watch her earliest videos, they're edited, but it's like she was doing it on her phone or like an iMovie or something free, but it was still watchable for me. And I'm not like a watchable dude. Like I'm pretty picky about the YouTubers that I follow and watch religiously. And for whatever reason, I was like minute 7, minute 8 into her videos. I was like, oh wow, I've been watching this for like 10 minutes already. Like she's very watchable. And I think that it's harder probably to learn if you're not a watchable person. But if you can spend time focusing on that, telling stories, showcasing your personality as best you can, doing some outlines, some bullet outlines about topics, and not just holding up the phone and hitting go, or the opposite, scripting every single word and literally looking down at the paper. I feel like you can take care of a bunch of that stuff that makes up for editing and makes up for tech, or at least you could start that way. You get better as you go along, but that's my 2 cents there.
No, I agree. If you were going to start on YouTube, the main thing is make sure your audio is clear and your video is like at least 720p, which every single smartphone will pretty much shoot. And so, and like similar to what Packaging the Brand said, lower production value is more relatable. It is in a lot of ways, and a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think if I had X amount of hours a week to learn how to YouTube, I would spend 25% on that, on like, or maybe I would spend 1 week learning the production stuff, and then I would be done. And then I would spend the vast majority of the rest of the time reading books on storytelling and like crafting a speech and
Yeah.
how to think about conveying ideas in a compelling way.
Yeah.
That's way more important.
It's hard too.
Yeah.
It's hard, but worthwhile. Not worthy. Worthwhile. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Last thing on YouTube, maybe. All right, so we got Kellen And chat, he's been doing a little bit more video over the past couple of weeks and months. I don't know if Jim Wing's going to get into YouTube or whatnot, but for anybody who is looking to do more YouTube, that's quote unquote. Like, I really want to start experimenting here and see how I like it, see if it fits me, see if I can make it grow. What would be like the 2 minute, let's do like a 2 minute drill of advice that you would give these people just starting out? You could point people to other resources like video creators or any Nick Nimmons or whatever, or you could just give them like a couple of things to think about as they start doing that. But what would be like the 2 minutes of advice you would give them?
So to your point, I think the first thing is, do you like this? So when you're trying to figure out if you like it, don't spend any time trying to think through YouTube strategy and getting seen. Like, that doesn't matter at all if you're just trying to figure out if you like it. I would sit down, I would loosely script out 3 videos, just go film them and see if you enjoyed the process. My first video that I filmed, I got done filming and editing, and before I even uploaded it to YouTube, I was like, I like this way better than blogging. This is what I'm doing now. And I just liked it better. And so not everybody will feel that way, but you should check that out. So if you're trying to figure that out, do that. If you're looking to grow and you're already sold on, I like this, now I want to grow, the biggest piece of advice that I can give, and you've heard this a million times, but I'm going to like beat it into your skull because I didn't listen to it for the first like year and a half. And it's like titles and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails, yep. Titles and thumbnails, titles and thumbnails. It's everything. And I've really only in 2020, I would say, have I gotten serious about actually strategizing and spending real time thinking through the thumbnail that I'm going to choose with my video. The vast majority of time I would shoot a video and then just sort of do a screen grab from the video, try and throw some text on it, and then boom, go. And I'm paying a lot more attention now to click-through rates on the video, yep. And looking at those analytics, and then I'm changing thumbnails after a day or two if I'm not getting the click-through rate that I think that I need. And
where did you get that baseline? Like, just experience from your past videos? You knew you should be getting
just looking at my past
5%
videos.
Yeah, or what was that?
Yeah. So just looking at my past videos and knowing like, okay. And YouTube, the YouTube Studio, like if you were on YouTube 2 years ago, the analytics these days are so much better. Like the amount of data they give you is so much better. So, titles and thumbnails. And then the other thing I can say is watch time, which is paying a lot of attention to how long people are staying on your video. And I got this really kind of thrown at me heavy from video creators, Tim Schmoyer, who's probably been my favorite person to learn from on like how to YouTube. And he talks about how like the ideal video that's like really going to start popping is going to get 50% viewer retention at the end. So that's not like if you're in your YouTube Studio, it'll give you an average viewer retention. That's not what you're talking about. You're looking at the last 20 seconds of the video are 50% of the people still there. And I've gotten more strategic about closing my videos out tighter, immediately throwing up like, if you like this video, you should click on this video. It's the next thing. It'll teach you exactly what to do next. Yep. My end screen click-through rates have started to go up since I've tightened that up. So really just tightening up the front half, the back half, and then having a really tight edit to keep people's attention. So Catherine says, name again, Tim Schmoyer. Let's type that into the chat. Yeah. It's Video Creators.
I like Tim.
Is the name of the channel.
Nice guy.
But he's legit, and he's super nice. So those 2 things like matter more than anything. To me, even more than like SEO, like YouTube SEO, and like thinking through like that stuff matters. Like you definitely need to think through your topics and what you think you can rank for. And there's tools out there that can help you with that. But at the end of the day, if you can't produce a video that's going to get you clicks and going to keep people on the video, none of the SEO stuff matters.
Yep. One wise piece of advice that I've heard from a lot of people, and you told me this a while back. I don't know if you remember this or not. I like to be clever. For anybody who has been around Do You Even Blog for a hot minute, they realize this. I like to be clever. In fact, sometimes I indulge myself and allow myself to be clever. My intros to YouTube videos, I do not allow myself to be clever anymore, for the most part. Every time I try to be clever with like a YouTube intro, the first like 5 to 10 or even like up to 15, 30 seconds of a video, I'm like clever and it's something fun, like cool camera angles and like a little funny blip. User retention is just like, nope, not here for that. It's not what this is. I'm not like Casey Neistat, who already has like a bajillion million followers or whatnot. I get right to the point, or at least I try to very, very quickly. In fact, the top performing video I have right now is a product review. It's my review of Podia, 50+% watch time. That's the average. And the beginning of the video is literally this. I'm literally going to say it. Podia review 2020. Let's go. First up, I'm talking about price, and then I literally have like price on the screen within 3.5 seconds. Like I have titles coming up for all my product comparisons that I'm doing, like within 3 seconds of the video, top performing video, and that to me just solidified like watch time.
Oh yeah,
Like you got to get people around.
well, and it's the other thing that I've been trying to do recently. I actually heard this from Tim Schmoyer as well. That I've been really bad about is don't repeat your title in the first few seconds. So the point is, imagine reading a blog post that was titled "How to Make 5 Income Streams This Year." Okay, let's say you're going to read a blog post. That's what the title was. How I made 5. You know, how I don't know how I created 5 income streams this year. Right, that's the title. If the very next sentence right underneath that is, in this post, I'm going to tell you how I made 5 income streams this year. That just feels stupid. Like you just read the title. You don't need that in the next thing. So what Tim says is when you're doing your intro, you can still tell them or sort of intro the topic, but don't repeat verbatim what the title is. They already know that. That's what they clicked on it for. Tell them something more interesting. So you can almost lead in with and one of the most interesting things about these 5 income streams is that they all do X or something like that, right? Where you're sort of expanding and adding intrigue into those first few seconds instead of just simply repeating what they already clicked on. Because the main thing to know is in the first 10 seconds, they're trying to decide if what you said in the title and the thumbnail is what you're actually going to convey in this video. Yep. And so you need to give them something to basically, one, build trust that they're actually going to get whatever they came for, and then B, increase intrigue so that they stick around to find out whatever it is you were intriguing about. Like, the other thing that I did recently that's helped is I just got rid of my intro. And if anybody's watched my channel, if you go back to like, I don't know, anything past a few videos ago, I've got like this really sweet intro that a good like video production friend of mine put together for me. It's like this stop motion thing with like my RV and then me and Hannah jump into it and like goes around the US. It's super cool. Yep. It's 10 seconds long. It's really cool. But like we were just watching people just leave, you know? Yeah. And as much as I think it's cool, like it's not helpful for actually getting people the information that they came for.
Totally. It's just funny. The balance between like, not difficulty, that's not the right word, but a different format, a different strategy to reach people versus like YouTube versus podcasting. For example, I'm gearing up for my podcast webinars, which are going to be the pre-launch stuff for Podcourse, which launches June 1, #podcourse.com. And I have the figures in my head. Average time on page for the average blog posts from Opt-in Monster, they did their research, 2 to 5 minutes. Average watch time on like a YouTube video, I actually don't know what the average is, but if you hit 5 minutes on like a watch time, like an average YouTuber, you're actually doing pretty well.
Yep.
You're doing quite well. Average podcast consumption, 30 plus minutes.
It's like, so wild.
It's mind-boggling, which makes sense. People are doing other things. Like they're already distracted. Like they're pre-distracted, which is a good thing. They get to concentrate on you more. Anyways, blows my mind.
No, it is. And if you look at almost anybody's YouTube analytics, especially if they're new, you just see a nosedive. I mean, 30, 40% of people leaving in those first 5 to 10 seconds. Yeah. It's crazy. And you almost go like, man, did they accidentally click this video? Like, did they literally just like, oh, whoops, I clicked the wrong one? Like, because people just leave.
How are you leaving in the first second and a half of my video? Yeah. I could show people my my YouTube analytics because that's what it looks like right now for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
my content. What's up, Jacob? Welcome, my friend. I heart budgets. I heart budgets. All right. Oh, see you, Jim Wang. There's some good book recommendations here. So I've never actually read. I've never read this one, Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. Never even heard of that one.
I haven't read that either.
I'll check that out. Primal branding is great. I love that. Tim
Yep.
Smoyer uses that a lot in his own content there. What was the? Oh, have you read Save the Cat? Have you heard about this?
Me?
Yeah.
Ramit Sethi recommends that, right? That's where I first heard of it. It's
really?
been on my Amazon list for years because he recommended it at one point, but I have not read it yet.
Do you know Jeff Barch at Story Greenlight? Have you watched any of his stuff?
Yeah. Yep. He's legit.
I had him on the podcast. Well, it aired like a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about this book as well, and I've heard it recommended from a lot of people who are not just video, but it is kind of geared towards like people who write screenplays and like script video storytelling and stuff like that. I haven't read it yet either, but like you, it's been on my wish list for like quite a while, which is cool. All right, let's talk online business for a second. More generally, you're still doing the YNAB workshops. Is that correct? What do you call them, by the way?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching, which is just a la carte, and it's almost all around YNAB. So like somebody's having trouble with their budget, they can hire me one-on-one, pay me by the hour. The workshop things are more of I call them classes, and it's called the Money Mastery class. And the basic way it works is I don't really pitch it as a YNAB class because it's much more than that. YNAB is sort of the tool for that. It's kind of like if you were doing a podcast course, you would do a podcast course, but you might say, by the way, we're using Reaper as the tool for the course.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how it feels. It's a 5-week class. It's taught live. It feels just like a college class. So people show up on Monday nights. I teach. Thursday nights, we have a Q&A, open office hour, and then Sunday night homework is due. And I review it, and we do that for 5 weeks. And at the end of the class, they come out with a budget that like is actually set up to help them reach their specific goals and kind of unique priorities tailored to them. And so it's a balance of heavy technical YNAB training and also like planning and long-term thinking and dreaming of a bigger life and creating a vision and then setting goals and working backwards and ensuring your budget is aligned with your goals. If that makes sense.
Okay. When you first launched this, roughly what was your audience size at? Because this was like a year and a half ago when you started, or a year.
Yeah, I could go back and look. I had like, I don't know. I've really only ever launched to my email list. So when I first launched this, I did a beta launch, which basically I was looking for 10 people to do it. And let me just pull up my ConvertKit here and I'll give you the actual number.
Got a question.
And the first one we did was in May of 2019.
May 2019.
So
about a year.
Yeah. So at the time, we had about 1,200 subscribers on our email list.
Okay.
And we got 10 people. So I felt really good about that. And then we did a launch at the beginning of this year, which was our biggest launch to date. And it was, hold on, let me pull it up. We got 35 people that joined the class. Nice. In January of this year. It was like around New Year hype, people, new year, new decade, let me get my budget in order, people are excited. And so, that was definitely a big reason that I think we saw a big jump by then. And by the way, we do these once a quarter. So we did 3 in 2019. And then the one at the beginning of this year, we had 34. I'm sorry. We had 34 people sign up for that one.
How dare you?
And at the time, our email list was 4,200. So that gives you some context.
Gotcha. Yeah, how dare you? 35.
That's right.
34. Snake oil. It's what Nick
and then we just did our last launch. Like literally, we're in the middle of running a class right now. We did another one at the end of April. And this one is the first time we've offered a business version of the class as well. Yeah. So we're doing a normal class, and then we did a extension for an extra 3 weeks. We're going to do your business budget, You got to take both. You can't do the other
That's
because they
interesting.
build on each other.
Huh.
And so the business version is like a profit first YNAB setup for your business. And that's going to be 3 weeks after. And we got 32 people that signed up for this one. So I feel really stoked on it. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
That's awesome, dude. So write for me a listicle YouTube video right here on air of
Okay.
like your top lessons learned. So you've done like 5 launches now, if I'm correct about that. First of all, I like that you're kind of doing the same thing. Like you kind of had this
Yep.
in your head from the beginning, and you haven't changed the
Yep.
format like that much. Other than that, or in addition to that, or you could talk about that. What would be like your top couple of takeaways from the past like year, the past 5 launches?
Number one would be focus on results for students. Like, number one thing is when you're thinking about structuring your products and your courses and your classes and whatever you're doing, how can you put student results and students actually getting what you say they're going to get at the top, right? Catherine, it's $397. I'll type that in. Okay. So, and I've increased price over time. It started out, the beta was like $250, and then we've increased a little bit each time. So student results, like far and above. And so everything in the class, from the live call, the way we do accountability, the way we give away a $100 Amazon gift card at the end of the class we do a drawing based on everybody who's completed all the homework for the class. We incentivize them to do that. I give them personal reviews and feedback via Loom videos. So everything in the class is structured to try and prioritize like you actually doing the work. Because if you do the work, you'll get the results. And then if you did the work and you didn't get the results, I'm going back and looking and saying like, okay, how can I tweak the presentation? How can I tweak the lesson? What am I giving them that isn't working for them, and why? So we've made minor tweaks to the content each time. Although this most recent class, we did a big revamp and just rebranded the whole like structure of the class with like an acronym that would just kind of follow along. It's still the same underlying content, but it's more memorable. Yeah, so number one, that for sure. Number two, number two would be like doing it to your email list. I mean, you talk about this all the time. We all online business talk about this all the time, but launching to people on my email list that are already familiar with what I do, are already familiar with our YouTube videos and our podcast, it's just such an easier sell.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to, like, I'm not hard selling anybody. This is the first time ever that we put up a video that was to anything not our email list. I put our sales video up on YouTube, and even that, I don't think we got any sales from that based on what I could see. Although we have gotten at least 15 people at this point signed up for the wait list for the fall class from the YouTube video. So I feel like even that was like more of a branding play that may pay off later in the year.
It's interesting.
Let's see. Third thing would be like giving away as much value during the launch too, as possible. So like this time I did a series of free workshops, almost Jeff Walker, like product launch formula style, old school email, like old school online marketing style.
Yep.
And like, I didn't hold back. Those free workshops were legit. And I gave away like a ton of strategy and similar stuff that what I do in the class. And my strategy has always been like, you can get everything that I teach you for free online on my YouTube channel. If you're paying for my class, you're paying for structure, you're paying for speed, and you're paying for accountability, and you're paying for one-on-one feedback. That's what you're paying for. If you just want the information, that's all out there.
Yep. I love that. Can I ask you, hang on. Can I ask you what you did for the workshop? Like, were those unlisted YouTube, like the actual like tech side of that? How did you implement the workshops?
So what I did is I used Podia, and I basically did a free course inside Podia. So you got to opt in, and you got to sign up through Podia to get the free class, which was also great because when you actually were ready to purchase the course, the sales page was also on Podia, and like you're already logged in at that point. Like it's literally, it makes the sales process even easier if you went through the workshop. because the email and all that stuff's already done. You're literally just putting in a credit card. So it's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
So I hosted on Podia. It was a free class. You sign up for the free class. And if anybody wants to like go sign up retroactively for this, I'm not pitching, but it map.money.com/dream. If you want to just see how the tech's set up, you can immediately unsubscribe. But it's going to be, but you can see the retroactive kind of what we did. So set up with Podia, and then I did an unlisted YouTube live stream every day. And like I used OBS for the live streaming so that I could share my screen. And I would talk through slides, and I would teach for 45 minutes an hour. The content was very similar to what I do in the class. It was just shorter, you know, because it was 3 small workshops versus like 5 weeks of classes. It was mostly giving people the high level structure of like the process for how I go about creating a budget that works. At the end of each workshop, I would open a loop that I would then try to close the next day, right? So I would talk about like tomorrow we're going to be learning this. So, or I would say, you know, everything we did today is great, but the problem is now X, right? Yep. You've got a new problem now because you don't know how to do this. That's what we're talking about tomorrow. So come back.
I love that.
Did that for 3 days. All the replays were inside Podia as well. And then on the 3rd day, I said, okay, you know, if you like this process, if this all makes sense to you, if this is helpful, if you would like for me to go through this process with you in a group setting for the next 5 weeks, you can join my class. Here's a link. Gotcha. So it's very low pitch. It was not a hard pitch, hard sell on that last day. And then that last day ended on a Monday, open cart, and closed cart was Friday. And we had a couple emails in between.
All right. I like it. Yeah, that is pretty close out of the old product walk.
It totally is. Totally is.
Walker.
Yep. Product Walker formula. Yeah. Jeff Walker, product launch formula. Yeah. The last thing I was going to say is this goes back to your clever thing as far as a listicle post. Your clever, like clarity over cleverness. There's been, I got a number of questions the first few times I launched of like, okay, I'm not really sure what this is. Like, is this just a YNAB training class? Like, are we just doing YNAB stuff? Because like, if so, you've got 10 YouTube videos about that. Like, I'll just watch those. You know what I mean? Like, so what are we doing here? And so I've since fleshed out more on the sales page and like explaining. I've reshot on the top of my sales pages. I do a sales video where I just explain and kind of talk through the class and how it works. And then the best email for me that I've found that converts the best has been every launch for the past couple ones. I do a Loom video, Loom. I do a Loom video the Thursday before cart close on Friday. And I shoot it. I always do it live. Like I don't pre-do any of this. So what I do is on that Thursday morning so that you can see the timestamps on the top of my computer and I'm going over. And what I do is I say, hey, I just want you to know one of the tools that we use in the class is this tool called Loom. This is the tool that I'm using right now. And you're going to be able to show me your budget. So even though this isn't one-on-one coaching, it's a group coaching program, you're going to get one-on-one access to me because you're going to film a video of your screen and show me your budget. I'm going to watch it and give you personalized feedback on how to improve it, show you where to tweak, what to do, how to make sure you're on track to hit your goals. And I'm going to film a video from me to you, just like I'm doing right now. I like that. As part of the class. And so that one I found, one, it's informal. It's very like laid back. It gives them a feel for what the class is going to be like and their interaction level with me. And it also really helps explain one of the biggest, I think, values of the class, which is getting that personal kind of feedback on their situation.
Yeah. I like that. Shows the product. Shows
totally.
The product.
That's it.
People have been saying this forever for SaaS products, software as a service products. A lot of times, if your product is good enough, like you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to say one single word. You just show it in action and people see it immediately. And they're like, I understand what this does. And I'll talk for a second. 2 things I want to say. Did you finish your waffle, by the way? All done?
I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
I have 2 favorite emails in my launch process that I've been doing for about 2 years now. The first one is the super every single detail email that some people need. Some people, like, they need this sales email and they need to see this on the sales page. I need to know exactly what I'm getting for my hard earned cash, every little bullet. And I usually send this out the week before my launch. Like, I want to connect with people, hopefully on like an emotional level during the launch week, but I want them to have this information first. So I usually send this out like the Thursday before launch, the Wednesday before launch. And the past couple of launches, especially, it is like the subject line is something like everything you need to know about online impact or master your or money mastery or whatever it is. And I go through everything. It's right there. Price up front, refund policy up front, the features. For me, it's like what courses are included, how much of these courses, like retail price is, everything that I could tell people about. It's a super long email. I'll tell people that up front too. I'm like, this past one was literally like, if you finish this email all the way through, you're going to know more about online impact than I do. It's like every single detail. What was the other email I was going to talk about?
We do the takeovers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We don't have to talk about those. I like those too, though. Those are always fun. Yeah, I like that. Showing product, especially the Loom video thing. I'm like, this is actually what it's going to be like. Like, can you picture this happening like 3 weeks from now? You sign up for the workshop. Like, this is how it is. I like that.
Yep.
I like that a lot.
And I always get consistently, like every single class since I've done that, I've gotten people who've signed up and then told me like, that's why I signed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that. Going back to the very first bullet you had about doing everything you can to like ensure student success. It's also really, really awesome, by the way. So I'll just give one little tidbit about my own business journey here. This is just digital marketing. Well, actually, no, other niches have this problem too. But digital marketing especially, like, it was a heck of a lot easier for me to sell a bundle of online courses for $700, which is what I did in my last quote-unquote Blogger U launch, November 2018, a year and a half ago at this point. It was a lot easier for me to sell that bundle of courses that maybe 5% of people like actually went through and like completed a course. A lot easier for me to sell that than what I sell now, Online Impact, at the moment, that is 20 times more likely to get my students towards their goals. Part of it is it's a different product. It's a different pitch. It's a different angle. But I think the one thing I have going for me and the one thing you also have going for you is now I just launched a second time. When I launch in October, I don't even have to go to my students to get like social proof these days. I can literally take screenshots of stuff they sent. Like this happened because of Online Impact. I did not have that before this, by the way. And part of the reason is the program is set up to help people succeed. Like that's all there is to it. When I sold like Blogger U and it was just courses and I bundled them all together and people got like 10 courses and it was just not set up. That's not what it was. There was no support there, accountability, one-on-one, all the stuff that you do in your own like masterclass. Yeah, it's so nice. Not having to go like beg for testimonials.
It's partly, and I know that I've given up sales. I think that in the past year, I could have potentially made more money if I structured this, bundled it up, and made it a DIY course. And only because every time I launch, I get emails of people saying like, "Oh, I would have bought this if it was like a DIY thing. I don't want to like show up live and stuff." Yep. And I think
don't have enough time right now. Yeah,
that's right. Yep. And I think people think that buying a course will automatically get them the results that they want. Right. And so it's very easy for me to type some credit card numbers into a computer screen and hit purchase. Like that's an easy thing for me to do. And it makes me feel like I have taken a step in the right direction. Whereas like when you sign up for my class and if you don't show up to class or turn in your homework, like I'm emailing you, right? Like, hey, what's going on? Like, can I help? Like, let me help you get this. And so it's a higher level of accountability and people shy away from that. I think long-term, my theory, same with you, Pete, I think long-term, our businesses will be better off because of it. Because we'll have more testimonials. We'll have like customers who are telling their friends. People in my class this time are here because they had friends in previous classes, right? That were like, you got to go take this. Yeah. So long-term, I think it will benefit the business and it will ultimately help us grow more. But it does mean sacrificing, I think, short-term dollars because people, it's more work for them. That's just what it is.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. 100%. I really couldn't. Well, let's wrap down over the next like 5-10
Yeah, yeah.
minutes. If you have any questions, there's only a couple people still on the call here.
Sorry.
Jacob's still here. There was one question from Bruce. Bruce, what app is Nick using for his workshops? I'm assuming he means like Podia, like to deliver content.
Yeah. So I use Podia to deliver the content. Everything that I do in my classes, for the most part, is done live, and then Podia is the replays. So I use Zoom for doing the live classes, and then I use Podia to deliver up the replays. I use Google Forms to submit homework. I'm pretty embedded in the Google like world, so like I use my Google Slides for the classes, that kind of stuff. And then as far as the budgeting tool itself, it's YNAB. YNAB stands for You Need a Budget. And again, like whatever course you sell, just insert your tool, right? If you were going to sell a YouTubing video editing course, it would just be like,
Right.
This is for Final Cut Pro users or something.
Actually, when you did the workshops and you did an unlisted YouTube live, you just like create the YouTube live and you can choose like public or unlisted. Did you actually just point people to that YouTube URL, or was that embedded in Podia?
I embedded in Podia.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can watch it inside, which is nice. I like doing that. You can go like they can click the link and then hop over to YouTube, but I embed it there.
Oh wait, is that using the new
nicer
webinar
experience.
feature? Is that what you did?
No, it's actually not. And I didn't use the new webinar feature because right now the new webinar feature only allows you to do one webinar. And so since I had a series of 3 workshops and I only wanted to ask them to sign up for one thing, I kept it all structured inside of a course with 3 text, like inside Podia, they're like a text content file.
Yep.
And then you just embed the YouTube live.
Huh.
So.
I did not know you could do that.
Yep.
Just type in the URL. Like you can't do that HTML.
Yeah. You just type in the URL. Huh. They have like an integration where they'll embed it for you.
Oh, that's right.
And then you can actually like, cool. You can also, they're going to eventually be able to embed the YouTube chat, but they haven't figured that out yet.
I was literally emailing Ian at Podia 2 days ago asking about that. Right now you can do the chat or the video, but not both, which is funny.
That's right.
Anyways. Okay, cool, man. Well, what else? Why don't you, I was going to do like another swag giveaway for anybody who would like go subscribe to your YouTube channel or something, or leave a ratings and review. How about that?
There we go. That'd be awesome.
If anybody, there's only a couple of people watching this live, but even the replay, I'm more than happy to do that. Go leave Mapped Out Money a Apple Podcast review.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, do that, like a rating and review. Say something nice about Nick and Hannah, and screenshot it, email it to me, and I'll let you pick out whatever you want from the DYEB swag shop.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, dude.
I appreciate it.
Figured that would be helpful. Other than that, you just want to point people to the website, mappedoutmoney.com?
Yeah, mappedoutmoney.com.
Sweet.
So we just recently redesigned the site. It's not perfect, but it's way better than what it was. So trying to clean it up a little bit.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been like literally sticking my finger in the syrup that's now dried on my plate.
Oh, dude.
Trying to get me some maple syrup.
It's good, man. I'm done. It's like so good.
Now we're going to go take naps after the Do You Even Waffle live stream. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks, Jacob, and everybody else who made it out live. Thank you, Nick, of course, for coming on, buddy. And that's it. Check you guys later.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Adios.